Many dementia residents in dementia units are aphasic, so they can understand you, but they can't speak or communicate verbally to you. So you need to develop a special form of communication in order to be able to understand them. They understand you, but you need to work out how to understand them. So it's a whole process of understanding and tuning in to facial expressions, smiles, tone, body language, gestures, emotions, feelings, etc. And people that can't speak verbally in dementia units are very much accepted. It's part of the terrain. And because so many people are in this position and they understand, so they come to the activities and they join in well and contribute well in dementia units, because they can still nod their head for no or shake their head for yes. Oh no, opposite, isn't it? Nod their head for no and shake their head for yes. And a lot can be done with that. Actually, there was a dementia resident who I worked with who was in the situation. She understood perfectly, but she was very vigorous with her body language, I'd have to say. So you could pretty quickly work out what it was she wanted to say. I mean, if she didn't like, she could say no. Actually, verbally, she could say no. She couldn't speak other than that, but no, she could say. And so, so if you said something that she didn't like, she'd say no, no, and like, you know, you'd certainly know that she didn't like it. If she didn't like the topic, it was no. If someone had fallen, she'd call out for nurse to come and help them because she was a prior nurse. She was able to articulate if someone needed a glass of water, she'd call out and make sure the nurse understood they needed water with gestures of drinking a glass of water. So she was very good to the unwell, disabled dementia residents, or if they'd fallen or there was an accident, she was the first one to call out. So really, it was on the basis of being able to understand her that was the main thing. I mean, she could say no, yes or no expression with her head, but it was more, rather than just those sort of basics, it was more the fact that she was able to project herself forward and be understood and insist that she should be understood. She had that self-confidence. It was actually incredible. She had a lot of self-confidence. Supported friends and family, lots of trips, lots of walks, never depressed. So she was a very good example of how to manage without speech. And there was another gentleman at the unit, marvellous man, a former professional builder, architect, fabulous presence. He was a very commanding gentleman. And I don't know how he managed, but he was very self-assured, quiet, reserved, and couldn't speak at all. Obviously, he'd been a great communicator in his work life because he'd done some magnificent feats all throughout Christchurch with his work. But he somehow seemed to be able to accept the position he was in. I'm not sure if he was religious or not. Maybe he was. But he had a calmness about him, even though he couldn't communicate. And he was never rattled, never stressed, and always managed to keep that stability and equilibrium. So, you know, everyone manages in different ways in dementia units, including those that are aphasic. And it's incredible how they do manage, actually. So I've written about these topics and more in the Resident's Voice and the Resident's Rise, both from a dementia unit, giving the residents experiences in the form of a novel in the beginning of both books, and the positive practical techniques that you can apply with people in dementia units, and the epilogues at the back of both books. So on Amazon, in the description below. They really are an easy read, and I really suggest that you get them, mainly because there's so much to learn. There really is so much to learn about not just dementia. It's not really about dementia, it's about the dementia. Well, yes, of course there's a lot to know about dementia, but living in a dementia unit, that's another huge subject in itself. which is really what both books cover, and that's why I wrote them, so that people or relatives could have an easier time with their relatives, resident relatives, dementia resident relatives coming into a unit, and to be able to understand the dementia residents' perspectives. So thank you for your communication, looks, likes, and thank you for your subscriptions. Please pass on the links. Thank you.